Common Guru. I'm Jax. Today we're looking at question number 7 in our series of questions called A New Year, A New Way. And that question is, do you often feel self-pity and why? Self-pity. Well, when I first thought about self-pity, I thought of all these different things of what it could be. And then I realized that I might as well just go look up the definition. So I went to Wikipedia and I thought they probably have the best one that I like. So I'm just going to read it here for you. Though the primary focus of self-pity is on the self and one's own emotions that are within it, it also has a strong interpersonal component, and that's the part that really resonated with me. Being an interpersonal emotion is directing the emotional feeling or response towards other with the goal of attracting attention, empathy, or help. And that was the part that really resonated for me. Because I was a great storyteller. Sure, I could tell events that was going on, but I had this arsenal of events that happened in my life that I felt were the best ones to give the impact that I needed when I talked with people. And it was a very interesting approach because I would have this repertoire of events. And if someone would come in my presence and they had their own little quiver of all of these events, we would get into something called the Scar Wars. Now, if any of you have seen the Lethal Weapon series, I love them all. And number 3 was one of my favorites when Rene Russo came on the scene. And there's one specific scene in the movie in which they actually do have a Scar War. And what happens is that Mel Gibson receives a head injury, not a major one, and Renee is applying some medical treatment to it. So she calmly asks him if it was a knife wound. And because these two are two tough cookies and they have quite a few different experiences which they've lived through and they probably shouldn't have, they have this bodily representation of all of these things that they've experienced. So he goes, actually, no, it was an axe. And she goes, an axe? Really? And then all of a sudden she starts showing this scar and tells how she had this bullet wound or this whatever. And eventually they get to the point where Mel Gibson has a scar in an area where he has to take down his pants. And she's like, no, that's enough information for now. As comedic as that may be, I didn't realize that I did the exact same thing when I came in the contact of another life warrior. So say, for instance, you and I would have a conversation and you would be sharing me your story. And your story has, well, what aspects of your childhood sucked, what aspects of your relationship with your family members was dysfunctional, and which ways in your relationships with others, in romantic or friendship or work, in which you were the victim or whatever. We have this entire list and that's ready, aimed, and primed to be used in a situation. What really made me think about that, though, was I had a conversation with a gentleman and we were talking about our past experiences. And he directed me to a blog of his that he wrote where he listed down some horrific stuff. Now, I am not going to downplay or belittle this gentleman on his experience whatsoever because in the case of a Scar Wars, I believe that he would win. But what really fascinated me, actually, was the approach that he had at the end. When he shared it with me, his answer was, it's amazing what humans can endure. And I thought, and that really struck me. I thought, it's amazing what human beings can endure. Now, it's true if you talk to anybody or read any some of the stuff that happened with Hitler's regime in regards to the concentration camps or Vietnam with the POWs or people that go through ritualistic abuse, which is just unbelievable on what they endure. It is very true that there are countless accounts that you can either read live on the internet or watch with all the criminal shows that we have of people treating each other very poorly. That being said, I came back with an approach and a mantra in which that I look at it and I typed out, it's amazing what human beings can heal from. And his response to it was the one that troubled me the most. His response was silence. Now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and have him decide that, well, maybe that's true, that these are things that we can actually heal from. But most people don't look at our situations in our past as something that we can heal from. They look at it situations that we can actually use as excuses. So I thought about that, and I thought, how many times do I tell my story over and over and over again? And in fact, when I was writing my article on the question number 5, when you're talking about how you have avoidance, I listed in my article about this situation with my dad, and I relayed the story. And when I came to this one, I realized, you know what? I'm really more than my story. Like, how many times do I have to keep telling this story? How many times when I come into someone else's presence do I have to one-up them in my experience and show them that I too have been a life warrior and I too have scars to show that I survived? But what really made me look at the situation a little bit differently too was how I carried my story. It was almost like a celebrity status where if I came into contact with someone and I got to share my story, it was like, wow, look what she has lived through. And it was like, yeah, like I have some pretty good stuff there. And it was, yeah, like I almost had this feeling that I was up for some kind of Academy Award of suffering or something. And I realized that, what was that serving me? How was I actually progressing in my life if all I did was focus on the past and my story? So I made a resolution when I was writing this. It's funny that this is like a resolution series. And I don't know, maybe should I use the word resolution? Maybe a decision. Is to look at when I was talking about my stories, how it was serving. And like, was I serving myself or was I keeping myself trapped in that pattern that was associated with that story? So now when I tell you situations that have happened, I want to tell you basically a blanket experience of how I've related to you. And I don't mean to not go into the details, because sometimes the details will be necessary, and there will be sometimes that I will share certain aspects of my life so you understand my perspective. But most of all, I don't want to sit there and rehash the same stories over and over and over again. I want to take that real estate and fill it with new stories of success, stories of areas of my life where I've had achievement and where I've enhanced myself and where I've grown. That's what I want to make my story. Make it an active story, something that is working and progressing forward. So I hope that this response to number 7 has been helpful to you. Tomorrow we're going to look at a new question, and that question is, do you envy people who are more successful? I thought avoidance was bad. Envy has been such a stumbling block for me. Anyway, join us tomorrow for the response. You can check out our information down in our description box, and you can find out ways in which you can connect with the Common Guru, and you can see on Steemit on how we have the written version of all of these questions, plus a whole bunch of other articles that you might enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe to our page, and I really enjoy spending this time with you. Please respond in our Steemit blog or down here below on our YouTube channel and how this has impacted you. Until tomorrow, take care everyone. Bye.